Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So a lot of you out there, if you're not in Korea, you may be wanting to come here and find your dream Prince Charming Oppa, and you're expecting to see this or that, but if you come here, you're gonna see a lot of that and this. But no matter what you see, you're wondering, should I believe all of the stories? Are all Korean guys liars? Okay, so we are going to talk about whether Korean guys are liars or not, and we are going to frame it in the world of politics, but I promise I'm not going to show you too many pictures of our president-elect and his main ex-rival who is now leading the transition committee, because y'all don't want to see old Korean men and I think it hurts my viewer count. So we're going to put up an avatar for each of them, and bonus points to any of you who know what the slight shade reference is to the word avatar. Put it in the comments below if you do know. But they do say the fish rots from the head, and what we did see this week, our president-elect has shown and taught all the kids here in South Korea, and shown actually all of the men of South Korea by example, that it's okay for all Korean men to be liars. If you weren't already a liar, it's okay, because the president can be a liar. Ahn Cheol-soo wouldn't even answer his phone. He was at home. He was basically like saying like, I ain't going to any event. F you all. Ahn Cheol-soo, if you remember, was running for president against Yoon Seok-yeol. And he said that he was not going to merge candidacies or give up his spot. Essentially, he was always like the bridesmaid, never the bride. He ran for president like 2 times before. He ran for like mayor 2 times before. And each time he got screwed by basically the leading politician in each camp, liberal side and conservative side. I mean, he goes both ways. They said like, oh, if you team up with us, we'll promise that we're gonna let you get something really good, like basically like something important, some power position. Each time he brings his voters over, basically tips the scales over to that person he makes a deal with. They cut him out, throw him away. He gets in there again. He has enough of a voting block to basically like turn the election into a standstill, or they need him. He can't win it all on his own, but they need him. And then he makes a deal, promises, they cut him out, throw him away. He keeps getting screwed like this. And again, it looks like President-elect Yoon Seok-yeol, after they made that deal days before the presidential election, remember back in March, when Ahn Cheol-soo said, fine, for the good of the country, because, we can't have that like psychopath like Lee Jae-myung become the president, I will give my votes and my voting block, or as the estimate of like the majority would go to Yoon Seok-yeol, they were estimating. And that's why he won by that narrow margin, like 0.7%. And so as a reward in the beginning, Ahn Cheol-soo was the head, and is still the head, of the transition committee. The transition committee essentially means that they're going to be in charge of appointing the new government. So all of the new ministers, the cabinet, the people that are going to be in charge of the new administration. Now, what that essentially means behind closed doors is that Ahn Cheol-soo is supposed to have a say in getting his people, his power base, into key positions of power as well. That's where the negotiations are supposed to bear fruit. We're supposed to see some, okay, Ahn's flexing here, all right, people of his party are now having some positions in Yoon Seok-yeol's government. Well, today or yesterday, we have had the whole roster of the team. We could kind of think of it as like a sports team of Yoon Seok-yeol's new administration. How many of Ahn Cheol-soo's players got on the team? 0. Zilch. Nada. Nothing. That is why Ahn Cheol-soo was just like, I'm staying home. I ain't going to any events with you. I ain't picking up the phone. How could he get nothing? Essentially, he's being cut out. Cut out. Lies. Because remember when they had their come to Jesus moment, Yoon Seok-yeol, Ahn Cheol-soo, before the election saying like, let's merge, let's, do it for the good of the country. And Ahn Cheol-soo, why don't you, take a back seat and then, we'll make sure that your voice is represented. And then Ahn Cheol-soo, I think he came in with all these files and probably like draft agreements. He wanted something on paper, but then Yoon Seok-yeol did the ultimate Kkondae move and was basically like, hey, why do we have to put everything on paper? Why don't you just trust me like a brother? Whenever an old Korean man, or any Korean man for that matter, ever utters the word brother, and then the phrase, we don't need to put anything in writing, we're like brothers, end it, end all negotiations right there, walk out of the room. Ain't your brother. No. That's what Ahn should have done at that meeting. Whatever they were like snacking on, he should have just spit it out and said, sign or you don't get my votes. So apparently, Yoon and Ahn had another meeting and now they've patched things up. And the new shady sharky like spokeswoman for Yoon Seok-yeol said like, oh, I hope he honors his commitment and finishes his job. So Ahn Cheol-soo, I guess, is probably just going to go through the motions and finish his job. So where did Ahn Cheol-soo go wrong with this situation? I think he didn't go in with enough leverage because he did not go into this situation using the language of Korean politicians and probably like politics in general. The way that these guys order their importance is power, money, and then perhaps serving the public. Whereas Ahn Cheol-soo doesn't need power, money. He was probably most likely trying to serve the public first. Those were probably the people that he wanted to put into the government for recommendations. But all of these positions are going to people that Yoon Seok-yeol owes a lot of favors for, and it usually most likely has to hit up those priority points of how is it going to increase his power, how is it going to increase money. Serving the people is like at the bottom of the list, or if it even comes up at all, because that just gets you into trouble. You have to think of money and power first. And Ahn Cheol-soo, I don't think really understood that. That was the number one problem. He's not on the same framework. Because Ahn Cheol-soo, remember, he was a doctor and a business person. In both of those professions, you live and die by the client or customer. You're taking care of your patient, they come first. You're taking care of your customer, they come first. Without them being served, you have no career as a doctor, you have no business. So his mind is focused differently. For these politicians, if they don't take care of themselves first, if they don't take care of their power first, and then their money base first, then they basically have no ability to move on in their life. So Ahn Cheol-soo is definitely a fish out of water, and if you're going to be a fish out of water in that pond, then he's going to have to strap on a different like scuba gear and swim a little differently while he's there, and then when he goes and moves back into his other pond, be the way that he is. But you can't swim the old way in this pond and expect to survive, because they're really cutting him out again. Second thing that he did wrong, he did not convey any fear. Now, these politicians, whenever you're in a room and in a board meeting, when they kind of look down and they're listening, right? They're listening for the threat. What is the veiled threat? And like how we're all talking about Noonchi, Korean negotiations will always have some sort of threat, but it will always have to be covered in something. So you would never, ever, ever have, be obvious about it. So that's why people are listening carefully. So that's why, I think people are, that's where like this whole business culture, business etiquette, they're trying to make all of these classes on stuff like that. Oh, come on, come to the real Seoulite TV business etiquette class. What they're really trying to kind of be polite and reserved about is they don't want to miss something. They're just wait, shh. We need to, we need to catch what kind of threats they're throwing down here, underneath the politeness. And so we got to concentrate. But Ahn Cheol-soo probably didn't do any of that stuff. So that was his mistake. Now, we're also dealing with another village idiot here with Yoon Seok-yeol. Yoon Seok-yeol should actually have been also cognizant to his own Noonchilessness. He should have given Ahn Cheol-soo at least something, at least one position without ever even being persuaded or convinced. At least one position. He was quoted saying I don't really understand, but I received his recommendations and I gave him an explanation of the means by which the personnel appointments are proceeding. I don't think there are any problems with that. And then he also said that the process of comparing the multiple people were recommended or discovered by his team. Of course, his team is going to go with the people of his party, his power base. You guys have a Noonchiless president now. So what that means is that Korea, yes, South Korea, is now open for business and is for sale. So people with the highest bidders, please step up. This president is going to sell the country. And if he was not able to even give one appointment to, I'm sure these were very highly qualified candidates that Ahn Cheol-soo recommended and spent days, hours, a lot of effort bringing to the table. If he couldn't even give one appointment, then there is definitely some horse trading going on, and I would not be surprised that the auction was being managed by his wife or his mother-in-law. So whether Yoon lied consciously or unconsciously, the result is the same. He literally lied to Ahn Cheol-soo. There is no merger of the parties. It's dead right now. And there are no people of Ahn's recommendations in any position of the government. So essentially, Ahn is being sliced out of this equation. There is no brother or gentleman's agreement being honored here. He is essentially signaling to the country that it's okay to be a liar. And so when you see all these Korean guys just lying, but not even realize they're lying and just thinking that it's just kind of normal to be able to take advantage of your position or authority, this is an example of why they think it's okay. Because you'll see a lot of people say, like, why wouldn't you take advantage of your superior position if you have power over somebody else? It's only normal or natural. And you see how easily he slid? Yoon just slid right into this position of disregarding and breaking his promise and agreement, lying about the whole situation, and thinking of it as just a normal course of life. What should Ahn Cheol-soo do now? Like I said, Ahn Cheol-soo, you decided to swim in another pond, and if you want to keep swimming, I think you have to speak their language. Ahn Cheol-soo has a very thriving software business, and all of his software is like on every computer in Korea. We use all of his antivirus software or something. I think what he should basically do now is continue his campaign to become the party chair. Say that, like, basically, look, all right, fine. You took none of my recommendations. None of my people are in power. We did not come to any power sharing agreement. I'm going to put a virus in every ministry. Oh, like a chicken in every pot? A virus in every ministry. Not to bring down the government or anything, and not to do like any kind of coup or anything like that, but to track the information of all of the people that got appointed, to make sure that Ahn Cheol-soo knows of everything going on in that ministry, in particular, every single spending contract, because essentially that's what it's going to come down to, right? Like, that's where all the corruption is. That's why you appoint these people. That's why they want to get appointed. There's always some kind of skimming, off of, like, controlling the budget of the ministry, and then there's always something. They figure out some way to get the money from the contracts that they dole out. So, I think that's how you can use your leverage. You use the power of your data. That is so weird, and probably it's illegal, but is it? I don't know. You gotta get creative. He just forgot that he's literally dealing with a political environment of very low trust, and that we are essentially like a generation away from the politics of like the Kremlin. And so if he wants to be able to survive in this world, he has to speak their language. And I do believe we need him there. We definitely need somebody like him in there to bring this innovation and this politics-less version of running the government to serve the people, and not just be stuck in this old politics as usual, because that is exactly what the people are actually trying to vote in. But it's now a matter of implementation. Regardless, the main thing about this whole video, are all Korean guys liars? Well, not all of them are, but the example is being set now, again, at the highest level, even before President-elect Yoon Seok-yeol got started. By screwing over Ahn Cheol-soo in this manner, he's basically signaling again, especially now to the children of South Korea, that it is okay for all Korean men, and probably women, to be liars. So, Mr. Yoon, before you become president, fix this lie. Fix it. Fix it. And Ahn Cheol-soo, you go and write a virus. All right. What do you guys think? Like, share, and subscribe, and comment below. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Tune in next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Love you.